Welcome back to the School Bus Guru channel. My name is Antonio and I am your School Bus Guru. Today we will continue with the Behind the Wheel guide, skill level 3. So let's go to skill level 3. All right, skill level 3. The title of skill level 3 from the Instructor's Behind the Wheel Guide for California Bus Driver Training course is Transmission Control and Shifting Procedures. All right, we are now on skill level 3-3. Again, as you know from the previous videos, we always begin with purpose and objective and then go on to glossary of terms. Make sure that you read the purpose to your trainee. Today we have Johnny in the driver's seat. Johnny, the purpose is to present the concept and the theory and develop comprehension and the practical application of the critical task for transmission control, and the development of progressive competency must be implemented in the following logical sequence. Any questions, Johnny? No questions? Fabulous. This bus has an automatic transmission, so obviously when we get to the objectives, if there's something for the standard transmission, like on number 2, we are not going to read it to Johnny. Johnny, let me go over the objectives with you, and they are to teach you the critical task for transmission control. Number 1, throttle control. Number 3, establishment of transmission shift points. Number 4, shifting procedures. And number 5 and 6, shifting graph preparation and shifting chart preparation. We will not be teaching him shifting graph preparation, but we will be going over the shifting chart preparation. We're going to continue to read because some of this information, like I mentioned before, pertains to us, or some of it will be something that we have to teach to Johnny. So let's read what it says. Techniques taught in this skill level must be demonstrated by the instructor or the delegated behind the wheel trainer prior to training. We know that everything that we teach, we are going to have to demonstrate. The shifting chart on skill level 3-1 and shifting graph skill level 3-2 are resources to assist Johnny in understanding the transmission and shifting. The resources should be introduced as Johnny demonstrates understanding of the information. The instructor uses the shifting graph to explain the mid-range concept and shifting splits, which of course we will not be doing that in this automatic transmission bus. And Johnny's involvement may include homework, including preparation of a shifting chart, shifting graph. So like it says, the resources of the shifting chart should be introduced to Johnny as he demonstrates understanding of the information. Which means as you are going along in the training with him, you are going to, at the end of that training, or say that you have him do it several times, you are going to pull out the shifting chart and say, okay, let's go over what we just discovered. So, we're going to turn the page. We're going to go to the glossary of terms, and you're going to tell Johnny, hey, Johnny, I gave you a copy of the glossary of terms last week. I know I gave you a lot of homework last week. Did you have a chance to review all of the glossary of terms, especially this one? Since you knew that today we were going to go over transmission procedures. Any questions on the glossary of terms, Johnny? Nope. All right. If you didn't give Johnny any homework, then obviously you're going to have to spend a few minutes going through the glossary of terms, every single one, and explaining them to the trainee, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. We are now on skill level 3-7. Skill level 3-7, where it says vehicle selection, training site selection, and shifting procedures, that is for you, the instructor or the delegated behind the wheel trainer. It is all information for you. So we're just going to read it and go over it to make sure that we have a complete understanding of what it means. Vehicle selection, of course, the criteria for the selection of the vehicles or the vehicle that we are using to train are as follows. Of course, it must have an accurate speedometer. Of course, it must have an accurate tachometer, and the vehicle must be in good working order. Yes, whenever you are doing behind the wheel training, you want everything to be working. Next paragraph, the speedometer and tachometer should be easily visible to my trainee, Johnny. These instruments provide the necessary information to properly shift the transmission. Proper shifting techniques should reduce driver-caused component failures and help reduce vehicle maintenance costs and increase passenger comfort. That's one thing as an instructor and as a delegated behind-the-wheel trainer that we want to keep in mind, that we want these buses to last a very long time, 10, 12, 15 years, heck, sometimes even more. So we've got to do our part as the people training someone brand new, teaching them how to take care of these vehicles. And when we teach them how to shift, they are going to be prolonging the life of the vehicle. Training site selection, obviously you want to choose a great location that is going to allow for you to be in the driver's compartment while the bus is in motion, going 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 miles per hour with your book on the dash. You want to make sure that it's safe for you, safe for the training, and it still allows you the time to be watching out for traffic and making sure that the trainee is doing everything right, since this will be the first time that they are going to be driving at faster speeds. So training site selection, let's see what that says for us again. The selection of a training site is an important part of an effective behind-the-wheel training program. Find a safe location that is free of hazards and distractions, is on level ground, and supports achievement of the lesson objectives. For example, an ideal place to begin training would be a large area that is isolated from heavy traffic, such as a large parking lot, a fairground, an abandoned airfield, a deserted subdivision, an industrial park, or a little-used country road. If you must use public streets or roadways, you should still consider the same criteria. Yes, this area where I am at, we have not had the opportunity to use a fairground. That was a decent location for us to use, but they've been so busy. So we have a place where we take them out on a public road, and it's a very super wide roadway and allows us to go 45, 50 miles per hour. And it's a couple miles long. Let's read the note. The ongoing challenge for the instructors to strive for a balance between the immediate safety of Johnny and the realism of the trainee. Yes. Now that Johnny has completed all of his backing and turning maneuvers and is ready to go out to the street, the next thing we have to teach him is how he is going to control the speed of the bus using the transmission. So obviously we need to put him out there in real life situations. If you don't have a fairground to use or abandoned airfield like it mentioned, we need to take him out there to the street. But of course we want to make sure that he's still safe, you're going to be safe, you're not going to be thrown into the windshield, because you already know that your trainee has complete control of the bus and can make smooth stops. Shifting procedures, one last thing for you to know before you start teaching throttle control. Understanding the fundamentals of the transmission and proper transmission shifting techniques are essential to the safe and efficient operation of the vehicle. It is my responsibility, you as the instructor, you as a delegate, and the trainee's responsibility to be completely familiar with the standard operating procedures and the warnings and cautions noted in the manufacturer's operator's manual before operating any vehicle. That's one of the things I can't stress. Anytime you get a brand new bus, or heck, if you work somewhere and you have school buses, which I know that you do, that's probably why you're watching this video, you need to find the operator's manual, the driver's handbook, anything that came with this book, because it's going to describe the operation of many of the gauges, the switches, the whole entire bus, warnings, cautions that you need to be aware of. Most of the buses that we have received since I've been here, they also came with an Allison transmission handbook, actually several books which talk about everything about the Allison transmission. So you want to make sure that you read that. If there's anything that you feel like you want to share with the trainee, then obviously share that with them. All right, we go into throttle control. That is where what we are going to be teaching and what we are going to be reading to Johnny. So first thing, number 1 was purpose. Number 2 was objectives. Number 3 was glossary of terms. And now we are at number 4, throttle control. Throttle control is required to correctly shift gears in the transmission, Johnny. You must have proper hand, eye, and foot coordination to control the throttle and to shift properly. You're going to turn the page, go to step number 5. Step number 5 is the training. On this one, you guys are so lucky right now because there is no performance, there's just a training. So the trainee is still sitting in the driver's seat. All right, and now we get into the training. The steps in teaching you the throttle control procedures are as follows, Johnny. I want you to place the transmission in neutral or park, which of course the bus is always in that position, and then start the engine. I want to identify and discuss the top tachometer setting and the gauge's graduation. So top tachometer setting, remember when we were going through the glossary of terms, the top tachometer setting is the top RPM at which the engine operates most efficiently. And we already looked at the owner's manual, or we asked our mechanic, or we spoke to someone from the manufacturer. That's how we determine the top tachometer setting. But it is the top tachometer RPM at which the engine operates most efficiently. Keep that in mind, everybody. The higher the RPM, the most efficient this bus is going to operate, because the higher the RPM, all of the fluids are flowing that much better. Coolant is flowing faster, oil is flowing faster, and it's lubricating and cooling the engine components. So you might actually see the engine temperature drop with the higher RPMs. All right, and let's discuss our gauge graduations. As you see here on the tachometer, we have little lines going from the left side all the way around to the right side, and every little line is 100 revolutions per minute, RPMs. And then it goes from 0, and then it goes to 5, and 10, and 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, so 5. It says times 100 down at the center at the bottom, so that would be 500 RPM. The 10 would be 1000 RPM. The 15 would be 1500 RPM. The 20 would be 2000 RPM. The 25 would be 2500 RPM. The 30 would be 3000 RPM, and the 35 would be 3500 RPM. Any questions about that, Johnny? No questions? Top tachometer setting that we will be using, Johnny, is 2400. How do we determine the top tach, Johnny? Well, we can look in the owner's manual, we can speak to a mechanic, or we can drive the bus ourselves and figure it out, which we will talk about in the next few days. Step number 3. Stress the importance of proper foot placement on the accelerator pedal. The following criteria should be considered. Comfort, Johnny. It's going to be extremely important for us to have proper foot placement on the accelerator pedal. So let me ask you first about your comfort. Right now, as you are sitting and placing your foot on the throttle, on the accelerator, and press it down, let's talk about comfort. Are you comfortable in the driver's seat while you are pressing the accelerator pedal? Yes? Great. Let's talk about angle. The angle on your leg, specifically your knee. Remember, we don't want to have an outstretched knee because that could mean that our seat is too far back or too high up. You always want to have that slight angle even as you're applying the accelerator pedal fully. All right, maximum contact with the pedal. On this bus, the heel of your foot is on the ground, and then you push down with the top part of your foot. And pedal design. We have 2 types of pedal designs. One on this bus, of course. We have an accelerated pedal that is attached to the floor of the bus, and then there are other buses that could have an accelerated pedal that is attached to the underneath of the dash, and it kind of hangs down, and then you press the pedal that way. It basically comes from beneath the dash. Number 4, demonstrate proper throttle control by adjusting the engine speed, RPM, up and down to different settings, and hold the engine speed steady. So let's do that right now. And the last sentence in that section says that the trainee, so Johnny, should be given sufficient time to develop proper throttle control. You're not just going to go through this one time really quick and say, boom, I now consider him to be competent. You want to make sure that he does it several times, because that's what's going to tell you how his driving is going to be out there on the street. Is it going to be smooth, or is it not going to be smooth? Are you going to be going back and forth? You don't want to be going back and forth while you're standing in the driver's seat. That's not going to be comfortable. So you have to teach him from the start how to provide a smooth ride. All right. We are now going to jump to skill level 3-19, because the rest of the part after what I just read is talking about a standard transmission. We don't need that. So on skill level 3-19, we are going to discuss automatic transmissions. That is our sixth thing that we will be discussing with Johnny. Johnny, this bus has an automatic transmission. It has a Allison transmission. An automatic transmission may be allowed to shift on its own, which is automatically, or it may be shifted manually by you selecting and controlling each gear range as needed. Pre-selection, which is manual shifting, means selection of a range to match the driving conditions. Pre-selection allows for better control when driving at less than freeway speeds on slick or icy roads or downhills and uphills. Downshifting to a lower range also increases engine braking. The selection of the proper gear range when running at less than freeway speeds will prevent the transmission from cycling or hunting for the proper gear range, and this will provide a smoother ride and prolong the life of the transmission and the drivetrain components. It will provide you with a smoother ride, but most importantly, it will provide all of the students, all of the passengers inside the bus with a smooth ride. If you look in your rearview mirror, you see them going this way, that way, left and right, you are definitely not providing a smooth ride. Next paragraph. It is important for you to become competent in the use of the automatic transmission for driving on grades. It is essential that the bus be traveling at a safe speed when descending a grade. The correct gear range must be pre-selected to minimize brake use. Johnny. All right, let's talk about two of the features that this Allison transmission has. One of them is called the downshift inhibit feature, and one of them is called the upshift feature. Let's discuss the downshift inhibit feature. That will be your number 7. The transmission's hydraulic system will inhibit, which will prevent the driver shifting. I know it doesn't say downshifting, but shifting down into any gear range at a speed that will cause engine overspeed. Any lower forward range may be selected at any time, but the actual downshift will not occur until the road speed is reduced to the top speed of the selected gear range. So what does that mean, Johnny? If we are in third gear, we are going 35 miles per hour. And I know that the top speed of second gear is 25 miles per hour. But I'm going 35 miles per hour and I shift down to 2. The shift pad is going to let me choose 2, but the bus will not shift into second gear because the Allison transmission knows that that will cause engine damage, and it will not shift down to second gear. You will see the change on the shift pad that it says 2, but it's not going to shift into 2. You'll feel when it goes down to 2, so it's only going to go down to second gear when you slow the speed down to the 25 mile per hour or less. It is designed to protect itself. It does not want to die, does not want to get damaged. It wants to live forever. That is a downshift inhibit feature. So if you ever shift down and you don't feel the bus want to slow down and the engine RPM go higher, then that could mean that the bus did not shift into that correct gear. You'll know by what is the RPM telling you. As well as the shift pad. The shift pad on some buses, there's 2 numbers. One of them is for the gear that you select, and then one of them is the gear that the bus is actually in. Johnny, let's talk about the upshift feature. The transmission incorporates a whole feature that prohibits upshifting above the range selected during normal driving. But for downhill operation, Johnny, however, the transmission may upshift above the selected gear when the engine governed speed is exceeded and engine damage may occur. So upshift feature, what does that mean? Upshift feature basically means when you choose a lower gear, say you are driving in the city streets, in the neighborhoods, residential areas, in downtown or something like that, you're going to be using a lower gear. Let's say that you're using third gear. When you pre-select third gear, you are telling the transmission, I want to stay in third. You can go 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, but do not go to fourth or fifth gear. So that is your control over the transmission, telling the transmission again, do not exceed third gear. During normal driving is either straight and level or slight little incline, slight little decline, downhill, uphill, very, very slight, but you know, the bus will tell you whether it actually considers it normal driving. But once you are doing downhill driving and it is steep enough, the bus is going to know. Don't tell me how it knows, but it's going to know. I keep telling people there must be some sort of sensor in there somehow, somewhere. But once it knows that you are doing downhill operations and you're still in that third gear because you don't want the bus to go above third gear, the bus may want to go faster. And if you don't control the speed, it will go past the top tachometer setting. It'll go 2400, 2500, 2600, maybe even 2700. And at that point, I've seen on some buses, 300 RPM above the top tach is when it's going to upshift automatically on its own. That is the upshift feature. Again, it is designed to protect itself. It says, well, Johnny forgot that he is going down a steep enough grade and he is not controlling the speed of this bus. He is not controlling me. He's not keeping me less than 2,400 RPM. So I am going to start to go faster. I'm going to start to go higher. I'm going to shift up to fourth gear because I want to live forever. I need to lower my RPM. On the shift pad, you would see you chose third gear, but now the bus is in fourth gear. You do not want that to happen. All right, now we get into shifting procedures for an automatic transmission. Again, it says that I will explain the purpose and objectives of the lesson to Johnny. So I will go over the purpose and objectives again. Why? Because it says so in the Behind the Wheel guide. It says so in the book. That's the next step. Go over the purpose and objectives again, maybe ask him again about the glossary of terms, and we get to the performance section. Again, keep in mind, performance is you performing it for Johnny. Johnny has to see exactly what he's going to be required to do, so you have to do it. Follow the steps on this paper, and then just, heck, you know, like I mentioned before, take this one page out with you. Because you're going to take him to a safe location to do this, so you should have no problem reading and driving and, you know, making sure that Johnny's paying attention. Performance, establishing exact shifting points. I'm going to determine the top tachometer setting to be used. Johnny, I am still going to be using 2400. In fact, 2400 will be what we use for this bus forever. 2,400. My bus is already turned on. I have the headlights on. I have the seatbelt on. I have the door closed. Everything is ready to go. I have the bus in gear. Let's say it's in drive, and I have the parking brake release, and I'm holding the bus with my service brake pedal. Step number 2 says shift into the lower skier range. Okay, I'm going to shift down to 1. Then I'm going to say, Johnny, all right, I'm going to accelerate. So Johnny, this is what we're going to do, all right? I'm going to accelerate to the top tachometer setting, which is 2,400, and while holding the throttle steady at the top tachometer setting, which is 2,400, I'm going to note the road speed. I'm going to see how fast I'm going. Oh, I'm only going 15 miles per hour. Perfect. Step number 5. Now that the top road speed has been established for that range, I'm going to move the shift lever to the next higher gear range. The next higher gear range is second gear. Johnny, I'm going to shift up to second gear now because I already know I made it to 2,400 and the top speed is 15 miles per hour. Step number 6. In second gear, in that next gear range, which is second gear, I'm going to reestablish the top road speed of the last gear. We know that the moment we shift to 2, the bus is going to want to continue to accelerate, so I have to slow the bus back down. Really, all I have to do is take my foot off a bit from the accelerator to reestablish 15 miles per hour. So in the next gear range, reestablish 15 miles per hour, which is the top road speed of the first gear. I'm going to be sure that the bus is traveling at exactly the noted road speed, and the throttle is steady and smooth. The throttle is not jumping up and down, up and down. It's just perfectly steady. Speed is at 15 miles per hour. Throttle RPMs are perfectly steady. On the tachometer, I'm going to note what is our RPM. Hey, it looks like our RPM is 1800 RPM, or heck, looks like it says 1500 RPM. On the tachometer, note the engine speed, which is the RPM. It looks like it's 1500 RPM. This is the exact shifting point into the next gear range at that road speed. And step number seven, I'm going to repeat this procedure for each gear in the transmission. So you're going to continue to go through that. So from number 7, you're going to jump back down to number 3. Johnny, I'm in second gear now, so I'm going to accelerate to the top tachometer setting. And while holding the throttle steady at the top tachometer setting, which is 2400, I'm going to note the road speed. Oh, now I'm 25 miles per hour. And then, of course, the next gear, now I'm 35 miles per hour. Oh, now I'm 45 miles per hour, whatever it is, you're going to repeat those steps in that area. Then, of course, you're going to jump down to the training. You're going to find a safe place to secure the bus. You're going to switch out. Johnny's going to jump into the seat, and you're going to go into the training. The procedures for establishing exact shifting points, Johnny, are as follows. So let's say, for example, when I pulled over, found a safe place to stop, I shut off the engine. Well, I'm going to tell Johnny, start the engine. Turn on your headlights, put on your seatbelt, shut the door, get ready to go. Shift to drive, push in the parking brake. Step number 1, Johnny, determine the top tachometer setting to be used. We are still using 2400. Step number 2, I'm shift into the lowest gear. Shift down to first gear, Johnny. All right, Johnny, I'm going to start filling out this shifting chart as we go through this. So let me ask you one question first. What is the bottom gear range, which is how fast are we going? Oh, 0 miles per hour. Okay, we're going 0 miles per hour. Perfect. And then what is the bottom gear split? What is the RPM saying right now? Oh, 700 RPM. Perfect. Top tachometer setting, we're filling out 2400 all the way first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth gear, if this bus has 6 gears. And then, all right, Johnny, we are ready to go. Let me prop myself up. I'm going to be facing forward as well with you. And let's go to step number 3. Everything looks good around us. So step number 3 says, I want you to accelerate to the top tachometer setting. Johnny, accelerate to 2400. Step number 4, while holding the throttle steady at the top tachometer setting, note the road speed. Tell me again, how fast are we going? 15 miles per hour. Perfect. Step number 5, now that the top road speed has been established for that range, I want you to shift to the next higher gear range. Shift up to 2, Johnny. Very good. Good job. Now, step number 6, in the next gear range, reestablish the top road speed of the last gear range. I want you to slow the bus back down and hold the throttle steady to 15 miles per hour. Be sure the bus is traveling at exactly the noted road speed and the throttle is steady. And on the tachometer, on the RPM gauge, note the engine RPM. What is the RPM reading at 15 miles per hour? 1500. Perfect. Let me write that down. This is the exact shifting point into the next gear range at that speed, Johnny. And step number 7, repeat this procedure. So we're going to jump back down to 3, and then we're going to go 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I'm going to tell Johnny, all right, Johnny, let's find a safe place to pull over, secure the bus, relax, breathe in, breathe out, open the door, open the windows if you want so we get some fresh air. And I'm going to explain to Johnny the shifting chart. What is it that we just filled out? What did we discover? And what do we want Johnny to learn? And I'm going to explain it. What we want Johnny to know is that based on the shifting chart, all he has to remember to shift up, and there are things that he has to remember, obviously we want him to remember rules of the road, we want him to remember the pre-trip, the brake test, how to pick up and drop off students, do red light escorts, crossing railroad tracks, freeway driving. We want him to remember a lot, so now there's something else. We want him to remember how to shift this bus. Johnny, all you have to do, based on this shifting chart, all you have to do to know when is it time for you to shift up is remember the top tachometer setting for this bus, which is 2,400 RPM. So anytime you start off in a lower gear, let's say that you do start off in first gear, how do you know to shift up to 2? All you got to do is accelerate to 2,400. And then you're going to shift up to 2. Then you're going to accelerate to 2,400, shift up to 3, accelerate to 2,400, shift up to 4, accelerate to 2,400, shift up to 5. That's how you know how to shift up. All you have to do is remember that number, 2,400 in this bus, bus 97. You go by the top tachometer setting, 2,400. Now, how do you know when to shift down? Well, that's when we look at this side of the shifting chart, and we're going to notice that the top speed of first gear is 15, the top speed of second gear is 25, the top speed of third gear is 40, the top speed of fourth gear is 55, and the top speed of fifth gear, well, we can't go faster than 55, so we didn't figure it out. Let's say, for example, you are in fifth gear and you are going 60 miles per hour for some wacko reason. How do you know when it's okay for you to shift down? Well, you have to slow the bus down to the top road speed of fourth gear, which is 55 miles per hour. Once you slow the bus back down to 55 miles per hour, you can shift down to fourth gear. How do you know when it's safe for you to shift down to third gear? Well, you got to slow the bus down to 40 miles per hour. Then you can shift down to third gear. How do you know when it's safe for you to shift down to second gear? Slow the bus down to 25 miles per hour. How do you know when it's time for you to shift down to first gear? Well, slow the bus back down to 15 miles per hour. That's how you're going to explain it. Now that you have explained the shifting chart, the last few lines, some reasons for manually shifting an automatic transmission, Johnny, in case you have questions or you didn't get it from what I said before. What are some reasons why we want to shift a bus that has an automatic transmission? Well, because we want to avoid undue searching by the transmission for the required gear, which means we don't want the bus to be constantly searching or cycling or hunting. If you're ever driving on the city streets and you just leave it and drive, you're going to, at some times, if you're paying attention, notice that the bus is going fourth gear, third gear, every few seconds, fourth gear, third gear, because it depends on how you're pressing on the throttle. And it's only because it's trying to figure out, well, heck, what does this bus driver want? Do they want fourth gear? Do they want third gear? Or second gear and third gear? The same thing. What does this bus driver want? We don't want the transmission to have to work that hard to try to figure out what you want. It is best for you to tell it, this is what I want. I am going to, when I'm driving on the city streets, I'm using third gear because I don't need to go past 40 miles per hour. That's one reason, again, which was to avoid undue searching. The second reason is to avoid unnecessary lugging while climbing grades. We definitely do not want to be in the incorrect gear because the bus always wants to get the best miles per gallon. So we don't want the RPM to be lower as you are climbing a grade, because the way that you get the most power out of an engine and transmission is by keeping the RPM higher. So using the lower or keeping the RPM lower is considered lugging the engine, which is bad for the engine, which will decrease the life of the engine. You don't want that to happen. And number 3, control the vehicle's speed and help avoid overheating the brakes while descending grades. You never want to cause brake fade. You never want to cause your brakes to heat up. You never want to smell your brakes. You never want to see smoke coming from your brakes. You never want to see flames coming from your brakes. You always have to keep in mind, how much am I pushing down on the brake pedal? And is it very frequent as I am descending this grade that is several miles long? If it's very frequent, you have to always think about, well, I think I'm getting the brakes hot. I thought they told me to not do that. I don't want brake fade. Let's read the last thing, which is the note. It is your responsibility as an instructor and a delegated behind-the-wheel trainer, and Johnny's responsibility to be completely familiar with the standard operating procedures and the warnings and cautions noted in the manufacturer's operator's manual before operating any vehicle equipped with an automatic transmission. Discuss your carrier's policy regarding the manual shifting method with your director and/or supervisor before using this method. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Teaching someone from skill level 3 from the behind the wheel guide in a bus that has an automatic transmission. Hit like and subscribe, leave any comments, and we will see you next time.